Right, so I'm going to be breaking down the issues that United currently have in separate videos throughout the week, but I thought I'd start out with a positive, and that is the opening goal in the game against Nottingham Forest, which I think may be my favourite goal of the season so far. So here we see De Ligt has possession in the middle third, and United are set up in that 3-2 shape at the base of the possession system, which may lead to a lot of people questioning what exactly is the difference between Amorim's possession system and Ten Hag's, because after all we saw Ten Hag using a 3-2-5 shape as well in the middle third in this type of situation. Well, the difference isn't actually the shape, the difference is the strategy, particularly how intentional United are with playing through the centre, and it's not just in terms of pass choice, but also in terms of coordinated movements ahead of the ball. So first of all, you can actually see that De Ligt is in possession and he's situated a few yards ahead of Euro and Martinez, whereas under Ten Hag the central centre-back would have probably been the deepest of the three, or at least in line with the other two. Now the reason for De Ligt's high position is because United are trying to entice Forest's front line to move out to pressurise the ball, which will then open up space in behind them, but also to reduce the space between De Ligt with the ball and the midfield double pivot and the front three ahead. Also, rather than just constantly circulating the ball across the back three, Amorim instructs De Ligt to hold on to the ball when necessary, being patient and waiting for the passing lane to open up through the centre. And from this camera angle we can see the coordinated movements a lot clearer. Notice how Ugarte and Mainu are very close to each other, and the reason for this is that it gives De Ligt more potential passing lanes through the centre, whilst also allowing for short layoffs into or from one of Mainu and Ugarte, but also, as happens here, it forces Chris Wood to shuttle across slightly to his right side in order to cut the passing lane from De Ligt into Ugarte, with Morgan Gibbs-White having to sit on Mainu, which in turn stretches the space between Chris Wood and Callum Hudson-Odoi, which is eventually going to allow a passing lane to open up from De Ligt into Bruno Fernandes when he eventually drops off his marker into this half space area. But before I break down how United eventually work this into a goal scoring position, if you want to check out any of the current season jerseys, go over to Jersey FIFA. They've also got a variety of different club and international retro shirts as well. You can use code Atlantis at checkout for a discount. A link will be in my Instagram bio, which I will leave linked in the description. So another difference between Amorim's possession system and Ten Hag's is that Amorim doesn't want his front five to simply hold high and static positions in line with the Forest defensive line. In fact, he wants the opposite. You can see Ahmad and Dalot, the players holding the width in the front five, aren't pushing up as high as possible. Instead, they're holding slightly deeper and wider positions, which means that the Forest fullbacks can't push up onto them, therefore giving them about 10 to 15 yards of space, and also allowing them to pretty simply open up a passing lane when the ball does go out to one of the wide centre-backs. And you can also see that the front three of Højlund, Garnacho and Bruno are also holding deeper positions. And the reason for this is that at least one of the Forest centre-backs, Murillo in this case, has to push out of the back line to follow Højlund's movement deep, with Forest's central midfielders, Yates and Anderson, also having to drop slightly deeper to pick up Garnacho and Bruno. Ugarte's central position on the inside of Wood forces Wood to shift further over slightly, and now Bruno and De Ligt are just waiting for the opportunity, before Bruno Fernandes breaks off of his marker into that space between Hudson-Odoi and Wood. De Ligt obliges with a line-breaking pass, and now even though the passing lane from De Ligt to Ugarte was closed off, once a pass goes into Bruno, because Ugarte's goal side of Wood, now Bruno can bounce the ball back inside into Ugarte, and United now have indirectly worked the ball from De Ligt into Ugarte in the centre, via Ugarte's positioning on the inside of Wood, and Bruno Fernandes' deeper movement towards the ball and subsequent bounce pass. And now this is where we can see the effect of Højlund and Garnacho's deeper positions, as they can now spin and look to run into the space that's been created, which drags their markers deeper, which opens up space for Ugarte to drive into. Yates is eventually forced to leave Garnacho and engage Ugarte, wherefrom Garnacho can now burst into that space between the Forest right back and centre back. Ugarte's through ball is perfectly timed and weighted, and also this is the benefit of using Højlund rather than Xerxes, as when Xerxes drops off from the forward line whilst his interplay with his back to goal is substantially better than Højlund's, he doesn't have the pace to then turn and accelerate up the pitch into a goal scoring position. Garnacho's movement is on point, his touch isn't though, but due to Højlund being able to turn and break ahead of the ball, he's in a position to put home the rebound. And the reason I like this goal so much is because it finally shows how we can now play through the centre of the pitch, as even in previous games under Amorim, the coordinated movements and patterns of play weren't quite there, and we were over reliant on building out down the channels with Dalot and Ahmad. However, this now gives us a lot more variety to our attack, and also shows that we are slowly improving tactically, with De Ligt, Ugarte and Bruno all being on the same wavelength in terms of De Ligt being patient, Ugarte's intentional central positioning in order to open up that space for Bruno to drop into, with Bruno making his movement with the right intensity, and from here we can see why having players in those central positions with the pace to accelerate into goal scoring positions is so important. So let me know what you thought of the goal in the comments. Also remember to sign up to my Patreon for the in-game Instagram group chat as well.